All right, everybody. Aloha Friday. Thank you for being with us today and spending this afternoon with us. Today, I have Tisha Marie with me, and we will be discussing networking and how to become invisible stop being invisible. Stop hiding. Stop hiding. And
Stop
start
hiding.
making some acquaintances and attracting your ideal client. Tisha Marie, thank you for being with me. I know we have been talking about this very moment for quite a while, have been seeing everything you're doing over in your neck of the woods, gathering people, creating networks, creating business ventures, just absolutely wonderful. And thank you for doing that over on the West Coast. It is early for you, midday for me.
I know when you're like, it's afternoon. I'm like, it is afternoon. Yeah, it's morning still.
That's right. It's varied, right? We have people all the way in Europe tuning in, and I'll put some of that in here, so that you can see. Hey, thank you, Martin, for being with us. He is all the way in Europe. So nice for you to join us. Now, Tisha, we have this topic about networking, hiding, not attracting your ideal clients. Some of those things that I've experienced myself as a business owner, especially when you're solopreneuring it, you have your own business. How do you do this? You got to do that. But before we get into that conversation around that topic, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Did you see that as
I
we were in there?
saw, I
I was like, I
saw.
need to get into character.
That's
I need
right.
to
Yeah,
put my Aloha
you
stuff
fit
on.
in perfectly. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, you can't come to an Aloha Friday and not dress up for Aloha Day. So yes. Thank you so much, Enrique, for having me. Yes, it's been a long time coming to be on your show. And just to share a little bit about me, if I haven't yet met you and you're in the audience, I am going on my 20th year of being in business. I started in September 2004 with a marketing company and have had multiple businesses since then, from event management to running a mom entrepreneurs club nationally to having a midlife crisis, if you will, and trying to figure out my own identity, to rebranding to Tisha Marie Enterprises, where I help solopreneurs with personal branding and business mentoring and consulting, even business therapy, because I know we a lot of times need that too. And I do quite a bit of professional speaking and host live events. I also got my real estate license because I'm like, why not? Let's do that too. So got my real estate license in 2021. And then I started another business, Enrique. I started Love, Laugh, Smile Gifts just recently with a couple of friends and my niece who's autistic. I wanted to give her some purpose in the world and have her help me and teach her some life skills. And yeah, 6 businesses later, like here we go. I'm also an author and a mom of 2. So I have a 15-year-old turning 16 next month and a 12-year-old daughter. So Caleb and Ellie. And it's true what they say, like I got into business so I could be with the kids more. And this is definitely giving me that time with them. And I'm just super grateful for that. So happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on this Friday.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your background. Very diverse, folks. And in the business world, you do have to grab on to opportunities as they come, right?
Yes, you really do. It's true what they say about having diversity and multiple streams of income, because I've been there. And I think that if I can speak from that experience, putting your eggs all in one basket, it's like you're going to fail at that. You have to be diverse. You have to be always learning and trying new things and pivoting if it's not working for you. And I see a lot of people are like, this is all I have. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's expand your horizons just a tad, just a little bit here.
Yes, I have a great friend that was on my podcast several years ago, Paul Cadrick Brunson, over in the UK. He's originally from the East Coast. And I remember him talking about, I have 10 streams of income. And he spoke about the importance of having that for the same reason that you just just stated,
Right.
right? You don't want to fail in terms of your longevity
Mhm.
and your ability to provide and your ability to keep that you was looking for, right? You talk about more time with the kids. Obviously, I spent a lot of time here at home with the kids, and uh, you have to be structured that way. You have to think about where that next opportunity to generate income is at, and to the point of networking, right? So let's talk about networking,
Yeah,
because
let's talk about networking.
there's a lot of people that think that that's just for getting a job, but
Mhm.
you undoubtedly use it for and use it in different ways to generate different things. So tell us about that networking events that you host and how you approach networking.
Sure, sure. Well, networking, like anything in business, if we're looking at business strategy, it absolutely needs to be part of your business strategy. And you have to carve out time. Now, should you be a networking junkie? Should you go to every single event under the sun, every single minute of the day? No, you shouldn't. You should really use your time wisely to find the events that really speak to you, that have the right type of clientele that you want to work with, that are within the right time frames. I know for me, Enrique, I cannot do a 7 a.m. There's no way I could be at a 7 a.m. event, especially a weekly event. There's a lot of weekly groups out there that I'm like, I can't commit to that. So know what your limitations are and find the groups that work with your schedule, because it'll be more enjoyable for you to get there too. And the one thing I say about networking is so many of us have this misconception, I would say, of I'm going to go to this event and I am going to get all the leads, all the business from one event. And I'm like, oh, hold your horses there, because that doesn't usually have, that's like the magical unicorn in the forest that you run into, right? It's really about consistency and showing up and meeting people and consistently being there. I go to an event here, for instance, I'm part of the Chandler Chamber, and there's so many great people I meet, but then I go the next month and they're gone. They're not there. They don't come back. And you're just like, but I liked you and I wanted to meet you and I wanted to connect with you. And now I don't know how to find you. And, it really is about how are you showing up and how are you making a name for yourself. And as you shared earlier in the topic and the title of this presentation about stop being invisible. All right. So stop showing up one time and expecting the world and not getting it and saying that was a complete bust. Networking really sucks. It's not good. I'm not doing it again. One question that I was asked, and I asked this repeatedly of my clients, but also I was asked by my coach. She had asked us, what is your networking return on investment? And such a great question, because you see a lot of people, they go to networking and it's more of just like, oh, I'm just shooting the breeze with people and I'm just grabbing a drink and it's social hour. And it's like, yeah, but you should really be there for a specific purpose. Like, who in the room do you really need to meet? Who are you trying to connect with? Who are you trying to help? Who are you trying to serve? All of those things come up when you're networking. And so if you can sit here and think about all the networking events that you've gone to and it hasn't produced any kind of income or opportunity for you, then you may want to rethink or re-strategize or question if that's even the right group for you or if you should find something else. If you just like the people and socializing, then you can do that anytime. But networking really is a business strategy that we should all be employing, especially as business owners. Not only that, but you mentioned like solopreneurs. If you're a solopreneur, we don't get a lot of office chit chat. It's just me and my dogs, right? So I don't have a water cooler just to hang out and talk about news and sports and whatever. So we do crave that. We crave that ability to be able to talk with other entrepreneurs who are in our same boat or who really could help build our business, or maybe we're looking for someone specifically, and that's a great place to ask for different resources for your business.
Absolutely. That you said something early on, which I want to talk about, which is the power of no, right? There,
Mhm.
there is a tendency for us, for the sake of business or just to get acclimated with the community or the groups around us, to say yes to everything.
Uh,
And there's a power behind no not just the certain stop of the conversation, but strategically placing no so that you can be able to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say yes to everything, you can't say yes to the most important things at time. And so,
Right.
how do you address that selection of yes and no to the events that you participate in?
So I had a gal ask me this brilliant question, and I would advise everybody listening or who's listening to the replay the same question. If you could spend your time doing one or two things that you absolutely love to do, business wise, let's say from a professional standpoint, what would you be doing? And when she asked me that question, it really changed my whole thinking because, as you know, Enrique, I was the people pleaser. I was yes, 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 yes. Whatever you say, whatever you need, let me do that. And I really had to check myself and go, do I need to do all these things? Like, what is it really doing for me? So, if you can answer the question of if you could be doing one or two things, what would you be doing? And mine was mentoring and speaking. Those are the two things that I love to do. And I had to look at it as if it's not getting me closer to mentoring or to speaking somewhere or giving me those opportunities, then I'm absolutely giving myself permission to say no to that opportunity. And just like networking, as I mentioned, you have to look at what does your schedule allow? Are you at capacity? Are these the people you want to network with? Are they the types of clients that you want to work with? If you are trying to go after a specific niche, for instance, why go to a group that doesn't have that in it or maybe has one person in it? So really be strategic in looking for those types of opportunities, those networking opportunities where it's easier to say yes because it's in alignment with what you're trying to build in your business. So that's what I would say to people is, use that as a litmus test. And that has been really a game changer for me of, I remember years ago, I was asked to judge a teen beauty pageant. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. Okay. And then I just had to check myself and go, is that really going to get me further with where I want to be? And I was like, hard no. Thank you. I'm flattered, but no. Like that's time away from what I could be doing to build my business. That's time away from kids. Like it's time away from priorities that I need to really focus on. And if, you know that, like if you keep putting focus and energy into things that are not going to grow your business, that's going to grow, but your business is not.
Yeah, absolutely. And Martin says no tends to increase interest, right? So, yeah, it and as you were talking strategy, right? Because no is part of the strategy, but the ROI was part of the strategy, as you said. Picking which events you will more than likely be taking the most out of,
Mm-hmm.
is part of the strategy. So strategy is involved in a lot that we do as business owners, as professionals, as being able to say, hey, I'll be at that event for a certain thing because it feeds this thing that I
Mm-hmm.
have in my plans, right? As a goal. And
Right.
but there's a lot of lack of strategy sometimes that I see going on.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is the reason why we allow things to so haphazardly happen in our business life, in our professional life, when strategy has always been said a thing to be key to our planning?
Well, you hit the nail on the head right there. You said one word, and I feel like that's planning. And I feel like maybe that there's a lack of planning that people are doing, and that appears to be kind of that haphazard thing that you're talking about of I'm just going to go and just do this. There's no plan. I'm just showing up. Okay, but why don't you think about that first? And we talked about networking, and I'll give you an example of to me what is more effective and efficient use of my time. So I belong to a chamber here because of my real estate brokerage, and I'm their spokesperson. They want me to go to different networking events, and there's two different types of events. There's one that is called Wake Up, and it's first thing in the morning between 8 and 9. It's once a month. And I love that it's very much the structured event, Enrique, where every person in the room, it doesn't matter if there's 50, 60 people, gets 20 seconds on the mic. 20 seconds. That's all you get. But you do get a chance to go around and say who you are and what you do, what you're looking for, so forth. And I've always had great success with that because I'm listening as much as they're listening to me too, of who in the room I need to meet. So I can beeline it to that person that I'm like, ooh, that's the person I need. And for this case, I'm looking for real estate vendors, people who service homeowners. And I have gotten a tremendous amount of clients and leads from that for my brokerage because it's so strategic. It is so dialed in of I need to meet this person, this person, this person, schedule one-on-ones, talk to them about the brokerage and vice versa. On the other hand, they also host a business after hours event. And this is an even bigger event. It's like 300 people in a room. It's happy hour. You kind of are there to fend for yourself. You have to just go up to random people and start talking to them. And I know that that can be very daunting for a lot of business owners, especially more introverts, of being able to go and just have a conversation with a random stranger. So I don't prefer those kinds of events because I feel like they really are just more social mixers, social hours, versus this is very strategic in the morning where I can actually listen, hear what you have to say, and then make an introduction and then follow it through. And that's been like gold mine, you know, for my brokerage and for me and for my use of time. So I don't miss that event because it is so key to be there in the room. So just an example of a couple of events, like figure out why you're there. If you're there just because you like a free drink and some tacos, by all means, have fun, do it. You're probably not going to get much out of it. You're going to probably meet the wrong types of people. And okay, well, you had a fun night. But if you're really there and strategically trying to build your business, then I would say that first event, an event structured like that, those are people in the mindset of growing their business, meeting the right connections, building relationships, and that's what I would suggest. So as you're going around to different networking events, find out what's kind of the vibe. The other thing is, we talked about this earlier, what's your capacity, right? Where are you at in terms of, can you commit to this? Because you've seen, I'm sure they're in Florida, there's plenty of groups that meet at 7:30 in the morning every single Friday, and you have to have a lead and you have to do this. And I'm not going to name names, but they have those types of groups. That is not my style. I don't want to do that. I don't want to find a substitute if I can't make it. I don't want to do those things. So I purposely take myself out of that equation because I don't want to be a part of a group like that. I want to make sure that I can commit. And if you can't commit, then don't go. Like you're shooting yourself in the foot if you go one time and you're like, that was great, but I can't ever go back to that because of just timing. Well, then I hope you enjoyed that drink.
Right. There's definitely a participation required, right, in some of these things. And if it does not meet the way you want to operate, you have to know those things, but that's easily found out by asking questions. Don't and I have been to a lot of events where it's one and done. I have done that, right? Gone to an event and say, oh wow, hold up, I thought this was different. I thought this was like that. And so all the contacts, now I did make a point to get the contacts of the people that I spoke to, that I said, I might want to talk to you later on.
Yeah.
But I have done the one and done before. And so I want to encourage those that are looking for networking activities to do a little homework prior. That'll save you some time in the long run. Or speak to somebody that's been at these events. Hey, what's the flavor? What's the community like? What's the focus? What will I be doing there? What should I be doing there? Sometimes actually helps. Now, I just want to throw this up because they said hello. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. So let's talk about invisibility.
Yeah.
Because you can actually go to one of these events and be invisible.
Yes, you can.
I don't usually I become invisible because I'm out there and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Hey, so for an external type of person like me, right, extrovert, that doesn't often happen. But I have been at events that I feel myself kind of pulling away and getting into this corner. And if I know somebody, I'll be there the whole time. So there are times where invisibility will creep up, or the desire to become invisible will creep up in events, but that's just indicative that you're at the wrong event, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not your thing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about invisibility, because this will lead us to the business aspect in here later on.
Sure, sure. Invisibility, I mean, that's hey, I get what you're saying, Enrique, because I've been to events like that where I'm like you. I'm very much an extrovert. I'm an extroverted introvert. You know, I can hang with people, but I also like my quiet time. But for me, you know, you go to some of these events and you're like, all right, I'm in it. And then you get there and you're like, oh, I'm not feeling, I kind of am like, I'm okay, just kind of hanging in the corner and observing. And it's okay. It's okay. You don't always have to be the life of the party going up to every single person. And sometimes it's just, maybe it's just the day that you're having. Maybe you don't feel like really being extra and going and talking to every single person. It's okay. But I would encourage people, if they are, and I use the term wallflower, and I've done videos about people who are wallflowers who they're at the event and they really are just like blending in. They're with the wall, like they're just standing up against the wall, hoping and praying that somebody comes up to them and starts up a conversation. And it's a hard place to be, because what if nobody comes up to you and you're just standing there by yourself? You know, was that a efficient use of your time? Probably not. Probably not. So being a business owner and being at some of these networking events, it is going to require you to stretch yourself and to get out of the uncomfortable and to go and strike up a conversation. And, you know, a good friend of mine, Daniel, he said something to me when I had him on my show about networking, about we're all in this room for the same reason, to meet more people. There's a reason you showed up to that networking event, and to really just strike up a conversation. Now, the whole thing of going up to someone and saying, hi, I'm Tisha, what do you do? Like, I hate that. I hate that more than anything, because I think that people are so ingrained to just be like, oh, I'm a realtor, and that's it. Like, that's all we say. And from my standpoint, if you said that to me, I'd be like, oh, I'm a realtor and I know a lot of realtors. Like, you got to give me something else. So this is more about building a conversation, starting a conversation with people, getting to know them. What do they say? Like be interested in people. So have an interest in them, be willing to listen. And you know this. I mean, I hear this all the time. People are always interested in talking about themselves. So if you are to just go up and say, hey, what brought you to this networking event? You know, is there anyone that you're looking to meet? Like, how would I serve you? Like, is there someone that I could introduce you to in my network? You know, if you're asking specific questions of people, they're more likely going to answer. And that's how you can get into a better conversation and figure out the flow and move forward from there, versus I'm just going to stay on the wall because that's a safe space. That's a safe space. And you made a comment earlier about, if you're at an event, you see someone you know, your tendency is just to stand with that person that you already know. But instead, why not take that person and say, hey, why don't we go mingle with this group? They look like a cool group, standing over here, and introduce ourselves. Like, so it really is so much about getting out of your comfort zone and meeting new people, because that's why you're there, right? That's why you showed up to an event like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, some of the reasons is to actually meet other people, get a landscape view of what's out there in your community, especially you if you're at a chamber event.
Mm-hmm.
These are the business owners of your city, right? Of your town, of your whatever it may be. And so you want to get to know the landscape, but ultimately all of this is maybe could lead to future friendships. You never know. But
Yeah.
the main point there in chamber of commerce, right, is to generate business. And I know that you focus on um, helping people stop being invisible so that they can attract the ideal client.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be a magnet if you're a negative, right? You can't attract that other piece if you're a negative. And so the attraction of business clients is could be stressful,
Mm-hmm.
especially at a networking event, because I liken it to these DMs that I get. They this DMs that I get. Hey Enrique, I saw that you and I share some common connections. Would love
Mm-hmm.
to connect. Now, I'm a grace kind of guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I will give you the benefit of the doubt first, although I will look at your profile.
Mm-hmm.
If you send me something, I will go into your profile and I'm going to see what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not talking about something that's similar to my lane, then I'll know that that's probably not a business thing. If,
Right.
so,
Mm-hmm.
but I often go into people's activities
Mm-hmm.
and I notice that a lot of them haven't even made a comment. And I'm like, okay, well, you haven't even made a comment, let alone actually posted anything.
Yeah.
No, and I do. I say no. I say no, and I delete that message and I move on. My
Mm-hmm.
merry way.
Mm-hmm.
That process of elimination often happens at these networking events, right? Because you're like, okay, that's not what I was looking for, just
Right.
and the other. But the attraction of your ideal client, it's sort of like a science thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So uh, how do you attack that piece of the networking towards the business aspect, because it could make a break, any future time that you spend there, right?
Sure. Well, it's like you said. I mean, people who are connecting with you on platforms like LinkedIn, um, what's the agenda? Like, do they have a hidden agenda why they're trying to connect with you? And I'm sure we've seen that where, I mean, I know I've gotten that multiple times where I've accepted someone's request to connect, and all of a sudden it's like pitch, 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 and I'm like, oh, okay, like we're not even on a first date yet, you know? Like I don't think this is going to fly with me. And I would say, like, if we're looking at it from a networking, like an in-person networking approach, that you're not there to close business on the floor. You're not. You're there to get to know people. You're there to build a relationship, to extend that relationship. So a lot of times I'm always like, if we meet at a networking event, let's follow through, let's follow up. And that's another key thing is a lot of people don't follow up when they meet you at networking events. And to me, that's the biggest mistake they've made, because how do you know it couldn't have resulted in something else? Right. So people at networking events, that would be my thing is let's meet offline. Like, here we are in this setting with all these people, but why don't we get to know each other offline? Let's grab coffee, or even just, I like to say, do a Zoom virtual latte. That's what I like to do, so that I can just meet you and get to know you in just a you and I one-on-one setting. And then we can go from there. And then you can really learn from someone, what is it that they're looking for? Perhaps they work with your same type of clientele. Perhaps they know someone that needs your service, right? Like, it doesn't mean that the person you're meeting is going to be the ideal client for you, but how do you know that there's not 6 degrees of separation of all the people that they do know that really could be, beneficial? It could be beneficial for them working with you. So I like to say it's a process. It's not like I said, if you're at a networking event, and trust me, I've had this happen where I've gone to a networking event and have picked up a big client. Great. Get that out of your head. That doesn't happen all the time. That is like magic unicorn stuff. That's right place, right time. And that person is like, I need you now, and you're right in front of me, and I want to work with you. Great. I wish all networking events could be exactly that. But if we're looking at it from a relationship standpoint, it is, and I know Andrew's saying love a virtual latte, it's really about a process. It's really about nurturing this relationship and having no expectations, but just learning more about that person and what they really truly need, What can you provide? It may not be your service, but it might be a resource. It might be another connection. It might be, hey, do you have a great book that you just read? Whatever it is, that's how you really start to stand out and meet these people and differentiate yourself. You stop being invisible.
And I love that you mentioned 6 degrees, and it automatically in my head was how you should actually approach this, because not everything is for the sale. You
Yeah.
still have to supply some type of activity
Mm-hmm.
along the way between when you start and when you sold. And sometimes a supplier may be in there. A person that does marketing may be in there. A person that has worked in this field for 20 years, and so you have to be able to, along the lines of strategy,
Right.
be able to place all these people in that journey to selling. And so you talked about the hey pitch, hey pitch, right? And I I don't obviously appreciate that, because I'm like, and here's one. Hey Enrique, I see that you're in the leadership development space.
Uh-huh.
I do so and so and so, and I help people with this pain point. You might be one of them. And I'm like, how did you get that from my profile? How did you get that that might be my pain point? I mean, we
Oh, so now
throwing,
they're stereotyping
yeah,
you.
exactly. And I'm like, hold up, what's going on here? and and so uh those approaches are dark in the dark, right? It's just
Yeah.
throwing, and I understand that. I know that sales has a way of doing things, and they try to bring you into, oh, that might be me. But if you don't know yourself, you're in a heap of trouble already.
Mm-hmm.
As you start to map these acquaintances, because that's what they are when you start meeting people.
Right. Right.
You have to be certain yourself as to how your business is going.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are focusing on the end result versus that 6 degree approach, and they're missing out on relationship that may help you out later.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of the things that I like to do, especially in the younger community, is find out what they do great
Mm-hmm.
and what they may need help in later, and then I try to meet both of those. So this is what I do, and it ends up being a you know a contract later, let's say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's relationship, and I think a lot of people miss the part of a business that's relationship centered, because they always say, hey, people buy from folks they like, folks
Mm-hmm.
they trust, right? And have a great product. I mean, you have to have one.
Right. Right.
So in this 6 degree, I guess placing people in these strategic spots, um, how do you address that specific thing? How do you tie in the differences in people and what they bring to the table in terms of your ultimate goal as a business person? Because you have to think more than just the sale.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think if it's, I like saying that I'm this ultimate connector type person. And I feel like through the years, I keep gaining more resources, more people that I'm like, that person does this. I know they do this. They're strategic at this. This is their wheelhouse. Like you, for instance, Enrique, leadership. So it's always in the back, like my little Rolodex in my head of if someone comes to me and says, who do you know that is XYZ or does this really well? I feel like I'm always that, oh yes, you should meet that person. And I connect the two of them. Right. So again, it doesn't benefit me in any way, but I am still part of that story. And I think that that's the part that I really love is I connected the two of you and now you guys are doing some magical things together That was worth it for me. That was worth it. Did I gain anything? No, but it's not about me. It's about helping other individuals. And I think that that's the key thing too, is you're here to serve and to help other people. And if it's always about me and it's always about what did I get from this, then it's the wrong mindset. That's absolutely the wrong mindset. So I don't know, Enrique, if you saw my last post that I put up Wednesday, and I titled it, Wednesday Winning. And I want to share this story because it goes into what we are talking about here. I met a gal, Kathy, on LinkedIn years ago. And although we never really met, we stayed in each other's corner. And Kathy and I don't really have anything in common. She runs Her Certified. So she does a lot of automotive consulting. She helps women go in and buy a car without a man. Like, truth be told, that's what she does. And she does it. She's so fantastic, and she's quirky, and she's cute blonde with red high heels. And I love her. I probably was not going to do business with Kathy ever, but we stayed in each other's lives and we kept, keeping the relationship open. Well, here comes her friend Nancy, who is running all these businesses. They actually run a business together called the Women 360. And Nancy hired a personal brand strategist who sadly passed away in the time that they were working together. So she never got anything done. Like, she paid the money and never got anything back because he passed away. And she's like, hey, Tisha, this is Nancy. Like, I would like to introduce you. She really could use your assistance because you help people build their brands, especially if they have multiple things going on. And I said, absolutely. I meet with Nancy. She hires me on the spot. They're both running this Women 360 together, but they also have other priorities because they have other businesses. And then last year, Kathy asked me if I knew someone to just really support them in their networking and their events because they were really stretched thin, but they still wanted to make a go of the Women 360. And immediately I thought in my head, who is someone that I know that loves planning events, loves networking, has a big heart, loves to serve people, loves being around women. And I met a woman at my church that I've known for years that I was like, she would be perfect. So I introduced all three of them. They hire her without telling her that they're actually thinking of selling the company. And they ended up selling it to her. So she now has the company. And then she turned around and hired me because she's like, Tisha, you started this whole thing. I want you to be my business mentor and guide me through the whole thing. And, so do you see the power of connection? And wow, it started with Kathy, and Kathy and I had nothing to do with each other, but we just liked each other and we had the same values, and and it just kind of trickled into all these things and came right back. And so that's why I'm like, this whole thing was just full circle. It's such a fun story to tell because of all of these moving parts and all of these people that have been impacted. And now Heather started the Women 360 with her own vision in mind and is connecting more women. And she's, has me as a part of it. So it's just like, holy moly, like it's so much fun.
and yeah, and it truly is that way. You're telling that story and I'm seeing faces of people, right? Bruce is our commonality, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah, I'm seeing him right after this.
Right. So and it really goes a long way, folks, if you're listening to this, to treat people like people. I mean, treat people like people. Every one of us has a value that's independent of each other. But that value put together is exponential. The things that could happen from you just treating people right and not treating people like a sale can eventually end up into a much bigger benefit or blessing, however you want to see it, later on. And it's all because that willingness not only to treat people right, but to be of service where you are, right? That simple Rolodex kind of, review in your mind of who would be perfect for this that I know, right? Maybe it's not one that maybe it's, man, I know Tisha said one day in one of her lives that she did boom, 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 boom with
Mhm.
this person. Let me go back to this. Hey, I have this guy, I have this gal that's looking for this. You have mentioned this before. And all of a sudden, things are happening. But you have to be of that mindset of saying, man, what can I do to benefit this moment right now without actually looking for something in return right now? And it's amazing what that happens. Hey, Tony, thank you, Tony, for being with us. Good to see you too as well. Um, so let's talk about the wins of all this thing for you, because I know you just mentioned getting hired by a person that you had all of this is just beautiful, and it is a great success story. But what have been some of the successes for you, well, in terms of how you bring all this networking, all this strategy, all this business acumen to life?
You know, I want to talk about this too because I speak so much about branding, Enrique. Like if you go to my LinkedIn profile, it talks about, I do help people with building a brand that's really true to them. I want you to stay authentic because there's no such thing as fake. We know there's fake people, but no more fake, right? And and I love sharing little tidbits of how you can stand out in a crowd and how you can attract the right types of people. And it truly is just being you. It really is. Talk about who you are, talk about what your interests are, talk about your family life, talk about whatever, but don't keep talking about business, 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 business. Because people are like, okay, great, we know what you do, but I don't know who you are outside of that. What's your character like? Who are you as a person? And so this was, to me, this was such a great success story. And I have several. I have so many of these. And then I want to share with you a not so great story that led to a great story, but I use it usually in my networking talks on purposeful networking. So I'm going to share a couple stories because I love storytelling. But I was hosting the American Marketing Association Spectrum Awards, big event here for the marketing community, and I was asked to be the MC. And this was years ago, and it's one of those things of how do you stand out in a big crowd, right? Bruce is a phenomenal example because he wears blue. He's always in blue, and that's actually why I'm wearing his signature color because I'm going to go see him later today. But as I'm at this event, I'm like, okay, thinking about wardrobe choices. I'm going to be up on the stage. I could wear black heels, black dress, black, 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 because that's the norm, cocktail hour. But instead, I chose to wear a blue dress and I wore Wonder Woman Converse, my fake Converse. And that's what I wore to the event. And here I had 30 or so people that came up to me asking me about the shoes. And then as I was standing there, I had a photographer come up who was the sponsor that said, "Oh my gosh, can I take a picture of you, by the AMA sign?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And then he's talking to me about the shoes. And then he gets into, "I would actually really like to meet you outside of this event and just see what it is that you do." And he ended up becoming one of my mentoring clients. And then I turned around and hired him for photography for my branding clients. You see how that works? You start to build this relationship, but that happened because of shoes. Like crazy, right? So the other story I wanted to share, and yeah, Andrew, storytelling is huge. I love doing it. You guys see I do a lot of storytelling. And that was actually something that I'm really proud of is back in 2020, I was named one of Arizona's greatest top 48 storytellers, which was fantastic. Because I'm like, I love it so much. So on the flip side, I want to share a story with you that I share in my purposeful networking talks. And it's Andrew had this comment that said, "I had a leader who taught me years ago that if you are humble and genuine, people will either want to meet you, work with you, or buy from you." Absolutely true. But remember what I said earlier, if you have a hidden agenda, if you are at an event just to sell, 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 pitch, 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 then it's not going to fare well for you because now you've kind of targeted yourself as that kind of person. And so here I am. I'm pregnant with Caleb. This is years ago because Caleb's almost 16 now. So let's say 15 years ago. Super pregnant. It's hot as hell. It's in the summertime in Arizona. I make my way to a Scottsdale event. And as soon as I walk in, Enrique, I was targeted. I had every insurance person under the sun coming to me, life insurance, like all of these people, because I was pregnant. They didn't ask me how I was feeling. They didn't ask me when I was due. They didn't ask me if it was my first. Just, do you need a 529 plan? Do you have life insurance for this kid? You know, all these questions. And I was just like, this sucks. And I literally took all the business cards and I threw them away. Well, on the flip side, I go to another networking event weeks ago, and it's actually more of a seminar. So I'm sitting there, and the guy next to me, Michael, starts up a conversation. Hey, how are you feeling? Like, I see you're pregnant. Do you know what you're having? You know, when are you due? Asking me all of these questions. And remember what I said earlier, people love to talk about who they are and what's going on in their life. And of course, I'm like, yes, I'm due. I have a boy coming. His name's Caleb. I'm due in August. And we exchanged information, and he asked me, you know, for my address, if he could send me something. And after I had Caleb, I was so pleasantly surprised because I didn't know what he did for a living. Now let's just leave it with that too. Here are all of these people, these financial advisors, these insurance planners, all these people who were just shoving their stuff down my throat, giving me business cards, throwing stuff at me, asking me all these questions, asking me if I have that in order. And here I am sitting next to Michael, who after I had Caleb, I get a nice surprise in the mail, and it's a cute little teddy bear in blue that's like, hey, congrats on your new addition. All this, by the way, if you ever want to talk about Caleb and, you know, all this stuff, let me know. Turns out he's a financial advisor. Two different, very, very different approaches.
Amazing.
Got my business. I ended up going with Michael for all of our insurance and the kids 529 and we're still connected to this day. He lives in the Bay Area, and every time I see him, like we're just good friends. Like we hang out. Like now he's a realtor up in the Bay and asked me about real estate in Arizona. So you see what I'm saying? It's not about the sale now. It's about nurturing relationships and seeing how, like, I was like sold. I didn't even know you're a financial advisor. Never talked about it, but it wasn't important in the time. It was,
Right.
how are you? How are you feeling? What can I do for you to make you more comfortable during this seminar? You know, all these things like that to me is putting people first.
Right.
Many of us have lost that. We don't do that.
Yeah, it's where folks really separate themselves from humanity, and you're just a business robot, right? And so a wonderful story to share, because I saw the human aspect first, right? Michael
Mhm.
showed you that he was a human,
Yeah.
and and you was one, and you want to um create a base, and the base is, hey, how you feeling? Hey,
Mhm.
is that your first? Oh, wow. And whether people intended to do that strategically, because I'm sure there's some people that think that way,
Mhm.
or this is straight genuine. I'm sure you would have picked up by now whether that was ingenuine or not, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he had, this is a person, and if
Mhm.
I aim to have any business in the future with this person, they have to know that I am too. And so, folks, if you follow that story and you heard it, or you're about to hear it in the replay, you have to treat people like people first. And so Andrew says, uh, he took the time to care about you as a person first, right? And that's
Mhm.
what's important. That's what builds. I see that Robin, she's here locally with me, not too far from me, but yeah, no, it's a superpower, and we had spoke
Mhm.
about that earlier. And I tell you that, uh, Tisha, business without the human aspect is not a business. It is just a cycle of changing money for service, and
Yeah.
that's all it is. And
Mhm.
so, if you aim to have business long time, or business even be enjoyable, Lord,
Mhm.
right? Something that you do on a day to day. You need to make this enjoyable. And sometimes you don't make a sale, you just laugh the whole lot.
I know. Here's my thing is I am a relationship person. And every client I've ever had in the 20 years I've been in business is a great friend of mine. I get together with them, we hang out, we chat, we this. Like I mentioned the story of my photographer who I met at this event. Actually, you see a lot of the Wonder Woman memorabilia, the collection that I have of people who've shared Wonder Woman stuff with me through the years because that's how they perceive my brand. That's who they're like, you remind me of Wonder Woman. I'm like, that is fantastic. Thank you. I'll take it. But the picture up there, if you can see, it's a framed picture. He gave that to me. Lynn is the client and friend of mine. And they're actually heading to my house tomorrow because we're doing a pool and if anybody knows like Filipino desserts, halo halo party, like we do that now annually where I'm like, come on over, we'll do pizza and halo halos and sit by the pool. And he's like, perfect. Like that's the relationships that I want. Like those are the clients that I want to work with that see the value and yeah, we're going to do business together, but we're going to keep this relationship going. We're going to become such great friends that you're not going to be able to live without me. Like we're going to hang out and we're just going to build this and I want to support you and I want this for you. Like I think that's why. And when we talk about retention of clients, I have clients coming back to me and then referring me. And that's where you want to be as a business owner. You don't want to have to be constantly chasing and, a client. So I want to share this example too, because I thought it was so well done and it wasn't anything that I ever expected. But I had a client, Jeremy, who just had a phenomenal experience. I helped him with branding as a fellow realtor, and he was needing some support and help and so forth. So, clients, you often ask, hey, could you write a review for me? Well, I didn't ask him to write a review. He did it before I could even ask. But one thing that he did, Enrique, is he put that review on his profiles. He took the picture off my LinkedIn, threw it up there, wrote this amazing review about my stellar personality and how I went far and above and beyond and all these things that him sharing it with his network brought me more clients without having to do anything because it was his word. Now, how many times have we seen clients that are like, oh, yeah, I'll throw it on your Google review? But will they take the time to put it on their own post, their own profile for their network to see how much they really loved and enjoyed working with you? Like, that's what I would love to ask people because that was like, I immediately got a client right after that because she's like, if he loves you, then I must love you.
Right.
I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing thing to happen. We're often taken aback as providers, right, to those events, those happenings that people so graciously and wonderfully do for us without asking. And you mentioned that, and I got an email
Mm-hmm.
uh, yesterday from one person that I coach that literally looked like a final will and testament. I mean, this thing was, and I read every word, and all I could think of is what it took to write this thing, to
Mm-hmm.
sit there and type all these words, and I went sentence by sentence. I'm like, touched and never asked for it, but I always think about what it took for them
Mm-hmm.
to sit and do this thing, and always humbly blessed for anything like that
Mm-hmm.
because we truly serve. That's what is the basis, the nucleus of what we do. We serve, and we do that with joy because it's something that we enjoy,
Right.
but we also do it with the knowledge that if it all happens correctly,
Mm-hmm.
this person is gonna be way better than they were yesterday, and then they can go and flourish and continue to grow. So in business, it starts with the person. In business, you have to enjoy it. In business, Sometimes you don't make a sale, you make a friend, right?
Yeah.
And it is one of the greatest things that could ever happen, because later on maybe you do. Tisha, thank you so much for all those stories that you shared, for taking us from being invisible to being able to strategically focused and have a real good plan around what we're going to do as activities to
Mhm.
generate that type of business that we want, generate and attract the type of client that we want, and even make friends along the way that will help us with other folks without asking. So thank you for sharing all that. It's been wonderful to host you on Aloha Friday Live. Thank you for playing the part and getting the lay and the flower in the hair. It's been great. Yes,
Dancing.
yes.
I'm dancing for you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Martin, and all the others that did not chime in. But we know that you're watching as I see the numbers. Thank you all for joining us on Aloha Friday Live. I hope that in this session you have learned something vital to help you, get from invisible to attracting your ideal client, and or finding a way to increase or make your networking events a whole lot more enjoyable. Tisha, what are you working on? What you have going on? And how can people find you for those many services that you have going on?
Sure, sure. So, best place is you can connect with me on LinkedIn at my name, Tisha Marie Pelletier, or you can go to my website. It actually is in my headline of visit my website at tishamarieNterprises.com. As I shared, I do a lot of things. I've helped a lot of business owners. I'm really in the business mentoring space. And then I have another business, Love, Laugh, Smile Gifts, which Andrew is actually a proud sponsor of that with Let's Be Diverse, his podcast. So thank you, Andrew, for always supporting and shouting it out. And that really is a new business. It's an e-commerce site where we custom make and design all sorts of fun gifts to spread more love, laughter, smiles throughout the world through gift giving. I've had several of our LinkedIn connections purchase and give me all sorts of great testimonials of the products they received and how much it lit up the faces of the people they gifted it to. So that really warms my heart. That's something that I'm working on right now with my business partner. And yeah, like I'm just excited to be here. I am an open book. So if anyone has any questions about my business journey, or if you're having questions, then let me know. Because I mean, you said it earlier, Enrique, business should be joyful. It should be fun. You should be having fun with this and learning and meeting good people along the way. And if you're not, then I'd love to help you get there because, hey, life's too short, right? So we got to make sure that we're living life to the fullest and we're doing the things that we were called to do and we're meeting the right types of people.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of Aloha Friday Live. I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to help us as we are after 700 subscribers at our YouTube channel. If you go to @DTLW Podcast, you'll find our channel. We're about 23 shy of that goal. And what happens at that moment is that I will be putting all subscribers in between 600 and 700 into a pool, randomly selecting one winner of an authored signed book called Identity Shift from Anthony Trucks. If you don't know Anthony Trucks, need to go look him up on LinkedIn or YouTube because the man is phenomenal. He has made his book available to give out, and so we're going to do that as soon as we get 700 subscribers. I want to thank Parade Deck for streaming us live. If you've been watching on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, thank you for joining us. But Parade Deck is a veteran military spouse, first responder centric platform where all the creators that are in that community are hosted on that site. So thank you, Parade Deck, for being with us and supporting us. Folks, It's been great to host Tisha Marie. It's been good to provide you with this knowledge. We will see each other next week as we have another Aloha Friday Live. Mahalo, everybody. Be blessed and have a safe weekend.